Be careful when viewing your childhood through rose-tainted glasses. Forwards in the mother's consciousness development, not backwards. Hello, my name is André Grande and I'm a psychotherapist operating out of Copenhagen, Denmark, and I moonlight as a spiritual teacher. And this YouTube channel operates from the main insight that appearance is not the same as essence. When we make a clear demarcation line between everything that belongs to the appearance, which means the physical appearance, emotions, thoughts, and even the entire personality, and then go on to disidentify ourselves from all of this, it becomes possible to move one's core identification from the appearance and into essence, from the objective into the subjective. And today we will finish our three-part series, which was about issues that most people encounter sooner or later in their sadhana, or their psycho-spiritual life journey. And the first issue we had was about how to deal with addiction. And the second one last week was about how to deal with the psychedelic renaissance. And today we'll talk about childhood and how we, in the best possible way, deal with our childhood if we want to go from appearance to essence. I observe a great longing after returning to childhood in our society. There's added a lot of qualities to this childhood. For instance, that you didn't have any responsibility in your childhood, that you were innocent in your childhood, that you were more free in your childhood, etc. Overall, there seems to be a sense of loss by having become an adult. And behind that loss lies grief. I observe that our culture has found a way to exploit this unconscious longing after the unconsciousness of childhood, and in the process make a lot of money by feeding us with nostalgic products. And these nostalgic products were very funnily spoofed by South Park in their member berries jokes. Remember this. These nostalgic products and the obsession of nostalgia, instead of satisfying and transforming this longing, seems to magnify it in our unconscious collective longing. In nostalgia, which is defined as the bittersweet feeling of longing after things, situations, or persons from the past, we can also call it homesickness. We have put on glasses which colors our remembrance of our own childhood in a certain direction. The past is seen through these glasses and judged as being somehow better than the present. In today's video, I will examine what childhood actually is when we take off the rose-tainted glasses, and how we get from nostalgia over the past and back into the essence of the presence. Let's get into it. Section 1. What is childhood? What we call childhood is represented by growing up in the unconscious instinctive domain. Children are born unconscious, but at the same time with a willingness and an openness in their hearts to connect with their caretakers and a curiosity about the world around them. The instinctive domain represents thereby a developmental window where the child is completely open and dependent on the care of the child's caretakers. Approximately after the child has turned 7 years old, it has become sufficiently matured And this developmental window closes for additional foundational changes. That means that I, as the caretaker, has the first 7 years to be with my child and take care of my child. And if I don't succeed in a good enough manner, and good enough is understood in the Winnicott sense, then from there on it's only my child who's now as an adult, with the help of therapy and self-development, can make changes in themselves. A successful growing up of children leads them securely from the unconscious instinctive domain and into the semi-conscious domain of the appearance, from biology and into the human world. The instinctive domain is therefore primarily biologically controlled. Children need 5 basic things. They need connection, attunement, trust, autonomy, and love sexuality in one word. And I have these 5 basic biologically controlled principles from the book by Heller and Lapierre, which you can find below this video. These 5 principles represents 5 organizing structures in the appearance. If these 5 principles is not filled up and taken care of in a good enough way in the instinctive domain, then they will get stuck as frustrated biological needs in our energy system, and thereby we can't get through them and transcend them. So let's take them one at a time. And the first organizing principle was connection. And connection is about how the child is able to connect directly to the giver. And when the child is very young, a newborn infant, it's primarily through skin contact and eye contact. When the newborn infant has connection to its caregivers, they feel like their existence is securely placed in this world. Lack of connection creates loneliness and a feeling of being completely alone in the world. Attunement, which was the secondary organizing principle in the appearance, is about the caregiver's ability to read the needs of that child. And this includes both biological needs such as food and water, but also emotional needs and regulation. A lack of attunement puts the child in a frustration state where the child is either forced to push away the caregiver and take care of themselves, or they have to jump into the caregiver and read the caregiver's needs in order to survive. Trust, which was the third organizing principle of the appearance, is about growing up in the childhood home with a sufficient amount of integrity. The caregivers, in other words, do as they say and say as they do themselves. With a lack of trust to the caregiver's ability to protect the child against the world, the child tries to overcome this feeling of powerlessness and betrayal by becoming strong and powerful later in his life. Autonomy, which was the fourth organizing principle, is about autonomy, to be able to, on your own terms, discover the world around you. The caregiver's role in this developmental stage is to act as a safe base, which that Bowlby called it, which the child can return to when they need to. In this way, the caregivers can, over time, let the child get more and more physical and psychological autonomy. Lack of autonomy results in bitterness and passive aggression from the child. Love sexuality, which was the fifth and last organizing principle of the appearance, and at this developmental stage, the child starts to show his own sexuality. And the child needs here to get respect from the caregivers that the child has a sexuality. If the child is met by shame from the caregivers, it is forced to split off one's sexuality from its ability to feel love. It is very difficult to have children in the instinctive unconscious domain. The children needs to have their 5 basic needs met to get on with their development. The child, in parenthesis, sucks the life force of the adults into themselves in the same manner as a little tree tries to get as much sunlight to be able to grow up and become healthy. The more life force the caregivers can give the children, the stronger they will get in themselves and more secure in order to meet the world in a good enough way. Even under the best circumstances, having one or more children in the instinctive domain is one of the hardest challenges to overcome in this world. Tiredness, exhaustion, frustration, miscommunication, and all the diseases which follow having small children in order for them to grow up and become big and strong. It takes a village to raise a child and all that. In most circumstances, the children grow up under circumstances which are not optimal. They thereby grow up in homes where one or more of their basic foundational needs has not been met in a sufficiently good enough way. They grow up in homes where the caregivers are not able, for one reason or another, to give them sufficient amount of their own life force energy. The appearance that the children in these homes create, therefore, is built on lack and has wounds in them. The nostalgic rose-tainted glasses thereby becomes the defense of the appearance for realizing that one or more of the foundational biological needs has not been met in a sufficiently good enough manner. In a paradoxical way, the appearance idolizes his or her own biologically lacks as a defense against realizing those lacks, and thereby is stuck in them. Section 2. Pain, wounds, grief, lack, power struggle, and divorce. In this second section of today's video, we'll have a look and examine some of the context where the children does not get their biologically foundational needs met in a sufficient enough manner. We will look at what happens in the family structure and in the parents' relationship by looking at how ancestral appearance wounds and lacks plays out in the parents' relationship, and thereby creating the cycle which gives the wounds which passes the wounds on to the next generation. And in order to help us examining this, we will turn to Harville Hendrix' books, Getting the Love That You Want, because his main point in the book is that we don't go open-hearted into a relationship as adults, because we all have wounds with us from our childhood. Relationships are therefore painful and difficult, especially in the beginning. All human beings starts life in the symbiotic wholeness to the mother and later to both parents. From birth, a separation process happens. A separation in order to become your very own person. If this process is not completed, or if this process is completely sabotaged, then the sensation or sense of being a whole individual person is broken or completely destroyed. In an attempt to survive this pain, we can either build up large walls and create an avoidant attachment, which result in hardness and depression. Or alternatively, we can try to melt together with our caregivers and our partners, which is called the ambivalent attachment and results in chaos and anxiety. The consequence is that if we have too firm boundary, we can't really connect to other people and we become lonely. If our boundaries are too porous, we get so to speak sucked over into the other person, and we don't really know who we are and what we need. Furthermore, we get socialized to hide away our bodies, our emotions, and our thoughts to fit into the family and society in general. And part of the work here is to open up the body, the emotions and thoughts, so you can actually get through them. So we have wounds in our appearances from our childhood. And due to these wounds, we thereby unconsciously look for a romantic partner that can make us whole again, which can act as the missing piece of the puzzle in ourselves that can fill up our unmet needs from childhood and make us feel connected to other people again. And these are very large expectations to have for a romantic partner, even if they are unconscious. So there are 3 phases of a relationship. And the first phase is about attracting a partner. And Harville Hendrix here states that what we really are attracted to is what he calls our imago. And our imago is a combination between the missing self parts of us that we have denied ourselves and a combination of our caregivers from childhood. So there could be a little bit of the father and maybe some of the big sister, etc. So what we are attracted to, the reason why we are attracted to this person and not this person over here, is because of our imago. And that then can happen by having a high intensity or low intensity polarity. With a high intensity, the attraction will be very profound and have a kind of roller coaster feel to it. And by low intensity, it will have more of a friendship quality to it. So after the attraction phase is over, we can go into phase 2, which is about falling in love. And I really like the English language sometimes because falling in love, it implies that there is some kind of falling. Maybe it's not falling in love, but maybe it's falling in consciousness. Because falling in love is a very euphoric process. And what underlines this process is this sensation of feeling of, eureka, I have found it. I am saved. I am finally whole. But the falling in love phase is built, unfortunately, on denial and projection. It's built on the previous denial of the disowned parts of oneself, which now becomes projected onto the partner. So you have not really found it yet. You are not really saved yet. This is an illusory stage. And because it's illusory, it doesn't last, and it leads to phase 3, which we can call the power struggle phase. And the power struggle phase can either begin slowly and creep in, or it become very sudden, like popping a balloon. The illusion collapses. The illusion of wholeness collapses. And the couple tries to hold on to the illusion, but you know in your heart that you find yourself in a new and terrifying reality. And the power struggle phase has 5 sub-phases. And these 5 sub-phases are, curiously enough, the same as the grief process. So let's have a closer look at them. The first sub-phase here is shock. The carpet is pulled from under your feet, and you freeze. You know that something has changed, but you don't know what it is. After life can start to get into the body, and you can move on to the second subphase, which is about denial. You try with all your might to hold on to what you thought you had in the second falling in love phase. We can fix it, we can do this. But when you find out that you can't fix it, then you can go on to the third subphase, which is anger. And there it's about putting blame and finding fault in the new reality. So it can either be projected outwards or projected inwards. Either this is all your fault. If you have just done this and this wouldn't have happened. Or it can be, this is all my fault. I'm so sorry, I can never make this good again. After the anger subsided and you enter the fourth subphase, it's about negotiation. If I give up this and you give up this and this, then we can find back again. And once you have negotiated for a while, you go into the fifth and final subphase, which is collapse slash accept. So either the relationship collapses completely and there is a divorce, or there is an accept, but I don't use the word accept here in the true sense of accepting it. I use it as in a subpar sense, which is about accepting that the love is gone and that you now would live the rest of your life in a loveless marriage. That's not true accept. That's more giving up, in a sense. So you are faced with the impossible choice of collapse or accept. And in Denmark here we can see that about 40% chooses divorce and collapse, and the rest chooses accept and being in what I call an invisible divorce, meaning that you retain the appearance of being in a partnership, but there's no real connection and love left. Luckily, there's a third option, and that is to use this whole relationship process as a wake-up call to becoming a whole person in and of yourself, and from there go into a relationship. To start the sadhana, which leads human beings from the wounded appearance and into the unwounded essence. From the semi-conscious appearance to the conscious essence. From the human world into the divine world. Section 3. Childhood is in the past, life is now. When you have the experience as a child, that one's parents or caretakers is constantly engaged in a power struggle or choosing actually to get a divorce, that's very hard to be in. That's a very hard situation to be in. And there are consequences on the body, on the psyche, emotions, belief system, and energy system. All the life force and love that the children were supposed to be filled up with are in these contexts redirected towards the power struggle against the caretakers. And the child's foundational organizing needs and principles are neglected or in some context completely denied. Healing from the past wounds starts when you realize that childhood is in the past and that life is now. After this realization has dawned upon a person, a door opens slightly, which leads out of being a prisoner of the past. And from there, you can start the work by filling up your own needs in a sufficiently good enough way. Heal the wounds of the appearance, becoming securely attached in and of in yourself. Cry out all the grief, and watch my video called "We Are Most Human When We Cry" for more information about that. Soften the muscles, reparent the inner children, and start to open your heart, and thereby take off the rose-tainted glasses by letting go of nostalgia. That's not easy work, but the alternative is to get stuck in nostalgia and run around in the unconscious karmic cycles. We have to realize that the hurt appearance has a vested interest in keeping us trapped in the past. The appearance loves pain. And watch my video, We Are Not Punished for Our Sins, but by Our Sins, part 1, for more information about this paradoxical statement that the appearance loves pain. Because the hurt and wounded appearance does not have our foundational interest at heart, but sort of runs its own solo show in our energy system. We therefore have to take an active, conscious, essential choice and say that enough is enough, and now we want to get rid of the past. Because by obsessing over pain, the appearance can be allowed to feel special. By obsessing over pain, the appearance can be allowed to feel superior. By obsessing over pain, the appearance can be allowed to feel justified in its perceived unfairness. But the price for the appearance obsession with pain is that it creates more pain in the world. It is a big breakthrough in our sadhana when we realize that we in our essence are not pain and unmet needs, but that when we in our essence is love. When we're ready, we can finally start to let go of all the pain we have carried for so many years and even many decades. Let go of the pain and open up to love. 4. Our cosmic childhood awaits. Forward in consciousness development, not backwards. Instead of returning to the earthly, unconscious, instinctive childhood domain, we go instead through our spiritual work from the appearance and to essence and become cosmic children. When we can hold the essence perspective that we in our essence are infinite love beings, and from this perspective look at the pain of the past, the pain is here recontextualized as a temporary irritation or challenge. This temporary challenge awaits our conscious work in order to be transcended. Because when we can hold the essence perspective that we are infinite love beings, we have the ability within ourselves to heal all wounds, dissolve all blocks, and overcome all challenges. We are the love we want. We are the love that we long for in our essence now. I'm taking a walk on a meadow on a bright spring day in May. The sun is shining and the birds are singing, and it's very pleasant temperatures. I walk past a small hill and see that in the middle of the hill there is one little flower, and the flower is a dandelion. The dandelion has spent the last month or so coming up from the ground, and its leaves has disattached themselves from the stem. The crown of the stem surrounds the yellow leaves, which I can sort of see in behind the closed crown. The dandelion is very close to flowering. On the meadow in the sunshine, I can now see that the dandelion has folded out its yellow leaves completely. The dandelion's closed crown has been transformed into a beautiful and open yellow flower. On the meadow in the sunshine, I can see the dandelion has now received enough nutrition from the sunlight, and has thereby begun this process by once again closing the crown around the yellow leaves. The dandelion is now on its way into the next state of its life cycle. On the meadow in the sunshine, The dandelion's transformation process is now completed. The dandelion opens for the second time its crown. But where there before was these beautiful yellow flowers, there now is a ball of white spores. On the meadow in the sunshine, I can now see the dandelion's white spores, one by one, detaching from the stem and being carried with the wind out into the world. Where the spores land, there will grow a new dandelion. The dandelion has finished its transformation process. On the meadow in the sunshine, I can now see the naked stem, which was carrying the dandelion's crown. The dandelion has completed its life cycle. The stem and the last remaining leaves falls to the ground and disappears and becomes part of the earth once again. While I sit on the meadow in the sunshine, I can now see a swarm of dandelion spores flying over me in the air. I lean back into the soft grass and observe them while they pass me by. I cut a smile for myself and let them continue their journey through the great conscious cosmos. Everything is not about me. What a relief. Appearance is not the same as essence. Our true home is not in our childhood, but in essence. Because we are all children of the divine, and the universe is our playground. Thank you for today.